PSVR 2 has been out in the wild for almost 2 months now. It's been quite a while and we've got a lot of good games, but there are a lot of games that I'd love to see come over to the platform, and today we're going to be going over 10 that I am highly anticipating if they do end up coming over. Now, some of these I've stated before, but I feel like we need them now more than ever, and some of these will be brand new ones that I've never mentioned before on the channel, and I have varying reasons for each, so let's get straight into it. Right, let's start with the obvious one, and I'm not going to go too in depth into why Half-Life Alyx should be on the PSVR 2, it's a no-brainer. But if you haven't played this game and are waiting for a PSVR 2 port, it's one of the ones that we're really not sure about. Valve have collaborated with other platforms in the past, they could easily do it here again, but I guess it's just a question of getting the rights sorted out, the licenses sorted out, and getting this thing running on the PS5. But Half-Life Alyx is the definitive VR game on Steam. There's no question, it's incredible, it's a great story, has great mechanics, amazing visuals, it is a definitive VR experience and we need it on PSVR 2. I hope this gets announced at the PlayStation Showcase. If there is one this year, it's a must-have. Next, I'm once again bringing Into the Radius into the mix. A game that I've been holding out on playing even though I do own it on Steam, because I want to play it on the PSVR 2 headset. This has been called Stalker in VR, and you can probably see why from the gameplay. You're going into the zone, finding anomalies, killing strange horror-like enemies, getting loot, extracting, completing missions, getting better weapons and upgrading your gear over time, all with a very realistic feeling game environment, solid sound design, and an interesting world with some great visuals. Even though the color palette of this one is very toned down compared to other VR games, this one is a must play, and there's a reason it's high up on the Steam top sellers for VR games. Into the Radius is one we really need. Unfortunately, we're having some mixed signals from the devs at the moment. Some people have contacted them through Twitter DMs, and they've said that the game is planned for future ports, and the only headset remaining really is the PSVR 2. So that could be an indicator that it is coming. But when I asked them publicly on Twitter, they said there were no plans. So we'll see how we go. I'm really hoping for this one on PSVR 2 though, because it's a game that I've been looking forward to playing for a very long time. Third on my list is VTOL VR, especially with new updates introducing multiplayer. This is a must-play flight sim and is also very high up on the Steam top sellers for a reason. The graphics might look quite simplistic, but don't let that fool you. This is a mix between a hardcore flight sim and a more casual one. It's not as casual as, say, Ace Combat if you played that on PSVR 1, because all of the controls do work as an actual plane would, although it is nowhere near as advanced as, say, DCS. I feel like this game would fit into its own niche on PSVR 2, even though we are getting Aces of Thunder and Project Wingman. Those seem to be more arcade style games, and while this kind of is, it's a big sandbox to play around with accurate planes that handle like they should. And as I said, there are a few multiplayer planes that just got brought into the game. I believe they're not mods, I think they're official. They can have you and a buddy playing co-op, and also you can have a buddy in co-op flying a plane next to you. I think that would be amazing to see in VR, and I really hope this one gets ported over with proper motion controls like the PC version and all of the features that come along with it. We wouldn't get mod support, but I feel like the base game would just be amazing to have, and I've heard nothing but good things for VTOL VR. Fourth, we have another game that I've mentioned before, and that is Phasmophobia. We are missing co-op horror more than ever at the moment. There aren't really any co-op horror games on PSVR 2, and this game is just one that I think needs to be brought to PS5 as well. We talk about hybrid games all the time, and what does that really mean? Well, this is one of them. A game that can be played flat and in VR, and that would mean that my friends who don't have a PSVR 2, which is, well, all of them in real life, could play a game with me while I'm in VR. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Phasmophobia is essentially a co-op horror game where you go into houses and big abandoned places, searching for ghosts, finding evidence and figuring out which ghost is haunting this place, what type of ghost it is. You can even find out their name, you can speak to them over the radio. The game seems like a lot of fun, and the devs are updating it constantly, so I'd love to see this one ported over, but it just depends whether they have time and whether they can feasibly get it working on console. And it'd be cool to see if they introduce crossplay, if that is the case, if it does ever happen, so you could play with your PCVR friends as well. I'm missing good horror games, even though I kind of hate them because they're terrifying. I would love to see this one because it's a co-op experience, and I love co-op experiences, especially in VR. It adds a whole nother depth of interaction, and this would be perfect for it. Next on my list is Vertigo 2. This is a game that I actually know nothing about, but it's on the list due to the sheer amount of praise that it's had. I'm praying for a port to PSVR 2 on this one, but I think the dev is one person, so this possibly won't ever happen. However, I am purposefully not looking into this game at all in case it does come over, but we'll have to send him a message over on Twitter and see if there are any plans for a port, because this apparently is a game that's in the realm of Boneworks in terms of its quality. So if it lives up to the hype at all, I'm very much hoping this one gets ported over to PSVR2. That being said, I have no comments to make on it. Just from what I've seen, it looks amazing. But I've stayed away from most commentary on this one so I can experience it for the first time fresh when I do eventually dive in, whether that be on PC or on PSVR2 if it ever happens, but I think we need this one. Another PSVR title I think we really need is Rumble VR. This is essentially Avatar: The Last Airbender, except you're an earthbender. You can move rocks with different hand movements, throw them at opponents, and have 1v1 duels with them. This seems like such a fun but exhausting game, and in terms of fitness games, we do have a lot on PSVR2, but this one is so unique that I think it would make for a really great experience if it ever came over. Just by looking at the gameplay you can see on screen, you probably feel really cool in the headset doing these moves, but outside of it looks stupid, but it's one of those games that you probably just don't care since you're having so much fun and burning a lot of calories doing so. As someone who would love to be an earthbender, let's get this one on PSVR2, it'd be a great choice. Next up, we have Skyrim VR. Now this is a game that I would like to be ported over to PSVR2, but with some conditions. Firstly, I want real interaction. On PSVR1, you could see your move controllers instead of your hands when you were sprinting, I believe, and sometimes during combat. There was no interaction between real-world objects when you hit them without pressing a certain button to grab objects. Overall, the experience, even though it was Skyrim and it was amazing, wasn't really VR AF. I would love to see the mods incorporated that make Skyrim a more cohesive experience, like Blade and Sorcery in terms of its physics interactions and melee combat, and brought it over to PSVR2. I'm afraid that if we ever get this port, it'll just be the bare bones Fallout 4 VR and Skyrim VR that we've had in the past, and that kind of sucks, knowing that that's probably what we're going to get. However, even if we do just get that, it would be amazing to explore Skyrim again in virtual reality. Even though I've done it once before, it was on a very old piece of tech, and I think a new piece of tech, like the PSVR2, would elevate it even further. Show me the beautiful world of Skyrim, I'm sure it can run absolutely fine on PS5. Hell, that's even an excuse to bring over a PS5 flat screen version if you really want to. But with the Bethesda deal with Microsoft, who knows if this one will ever happen? It probably won't, unfortunately. Now getting on to our final few, we have Stride, a parkour game that was also on PSVR1, but hasn't got a port yet for some reason. I have no idea whether the devs plan to do this. I would love them to do it because the game looks great. From what I've heard, it played great even with a few janky controls on PSVR1. And this kind of goes for that Mirror's Edge vibe that we're kind of missing on PSVR2. This one is on PCVR, but not on our beloved console over here, so I'd love to see it come over. I believe it's even got a campaign mode now, but the Endless Runner mode also seems like a lot of fun. Let me do Mirror's Edge in VR. I really want this game. It looks great, and from what I've heard, it plays great as well. Give us more parkour experiences because although I love the slow climbing of Horizon Call of the Mountain, the adrenaline rush of running over buildings, like in Mirror's Edge, would be amazing on PSVR2, especially using the head haptics to simulate the rush of wind or something like that. It would be amazing. Penultimately, we have the retro-inspired roguelike shooter, Compound. I've only seen various snippets of this game, but from what all the praise says and from what the gameplay shows, it looks like an amazing nostalgic time with a great art style and most importantly, a lot of charm. I've been drawn into roguelike VR games after playing the Light Brigade, and the more the merrier, to be honest. Give me more on this platform. It's an amazing genre, and it's even better in VR when your own body and life are on the line, it feels like. All in all, give us Compound on PSVR2. I have no idea how big the dev team is, but hopefully they have time to port this one over. Finally, we have a game that was also on PSVR, and is actually on PS5, but doesn't have a PSVR2 port yet. And that is Rec Room. Now this may seem like an odd choice from the footage you're seeing if you don't know this game, but Rec Room was actually one of the quintessential social games from the PSVR era. I personally put a lot of time into this game, mostly because it was a hybrid game before hybrid games were really a thing on PlayStation 5. You could jump into this one on flat screen and play with a VR friend, as I did a lot of times. I have videos on the channel in the scuffed recording software of the PSVR of me playing Rec Room with my friends, and it's an amazing time. There's so many community-made maps and experiences, and even though it's filled with a lot of kids who have parents who think putting a headset on their child is good parenting, in a closed lobby with friends, playing modes like hide and seek and fighting with lightsabers, and exploring the back rooms, I really want to do that stuff in high fidelity on the PSVR2. but I think they're undergoing an engine switch right now for Rec Room, so I don't see them porting it over until that is done, so we might be waiting a while. I'm sure they want to, they've ported to every platform under the sun, and if we got Rec Room on mobile, we're probably pretty sure to get it on PSVR. It's just a matter of time. Anyway, that wraps up my list of every PSVR2 game that I really want to get and that we still need. There may be a couple of others which you guys really want. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, consider liking and subscribing because it helps me out more than you think and it's free. Anyway, thank you all for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one.